So most teams in the VANARAMA National League North have played around about 25 games so far this season, so it's just over halfway through the season. So welcome to my mid-season review of the VANARAMA National League North. So first we're going to look over at the league table, and bottom of the league is Altrincham, newly relegated from the National League. Only one victory this season, they are on 8 points. They've had an awful start to the season. Also in the relegation zone in 21st is Stalybridge Celtic on 14 points and Bradford Park Avenue on 22 points. Then moving out of the relegation zone, these are teams that are really in a relegation fight this season. We've got Gainsborough Trinity on 19th on 26 points. Also on 26 points is Alfreton. Then in 17th is AFC Telford United on 27 points. Then on 27 points as well is Worcester City. And then moving up, I think probably the last team that's really going to be worried about relegation this year is Curzon Ashton in 15th on 30 points. Above that, really, you're sort of looking at the mid-table obscurity sort of seasons for Boston in 14th, Nuneaton in 13th, although Nuneaton are on a really good run. They've won 8 out of their last 9 games in all competitions. They're on a great run. In 12th is Gloucester City, in 11th is FC United of Manchester, in 10th is Harrogate, who started the season off really well, but they've struggled in the last few months and they've dropped right down. In 9th is Brackley, who've got a lot of games in hand and the teams in the playoffs, so they're a bit of a dark horse that could sort of make up that ground. In 8th is Tamworth, who've fallen off the boil a little bit recently. In 7th is Stockport County, and 6th is Salford. Level on points with Halifax, who are just inside the playoffs on goal difference. Then into 4th we have got newly promoted Darlington on 46 points from 26 games played. In 3rd is Chorley on 50 points from 26 games played. In 2nd is Kidderminster Harriers also on 50 points from 25 games played, so a game in hand over Chorley. And then top of the league is AFC Fylde with a 6-point gap at the top of the league over Kidderminster Harriers on 56 points from 25 games played. So the league really is Fylde's to lose. They are big runaway favourites, also backed up by the fact that they have scored 74 goals this season. They're the top scorers in the league by some distance. They have been absolutely unstoppable going forward so far this season. The lowest scorers in the league are Stalybridge Celtic and Altrincham, who've both only scored 23 goals this season. And unsurprisingly, they are the bottom 2 in the league, because teams that have goal scorers generally stay up. Teams that can't score goals will always be struggling. The team with the worst defensive record in the league, again, it's 2 joint teams. It is Alfreton, who are in 18th, and again Altrincham, who are bottom of the league. They've both conceded 62 goals this season. That means Altrincham have a goal difference of -39 after 25 games. The best defensive record in the league belongs to Chorley in 3rd place. They've conceded just 20 goals, and I believe they've got 15 clean sheets so far this season. So now looking at teams that have overachieved and underachieved so far this season, and the first overachiever is Darlington. They're newly promoted, they're still part-time, they only formed a few years ago. They've hit a real landmark this season of moving back home to Darlington, to Blackwell Meadow, just in the last month. So that's a really big turning point for their season, that's really seen this season become a bit of a success already, because that was a big goal for them that they've had for a few years. But also, on the pitch, they're doing really, really well. They've had back-to-back promotions in the last 2 years, and they've taken to the National League North like a duck to water. They've done really well, and they are in 4th place. My second overachiever is Gloucester City. They currently find themselves in 12th. They started the season off a bit better, and they've struggled a little bit recently, but they have only played 24 games. They've got a few games in hand. They could claw back that gap of the teams ahead of them and get into a bit of a fight for the playoffs potentially. They have apparently got the 2nd smallest budget in the league, which is why they are a big overachiever in my opinion. To get into 12th, they're doing very, very well. The 3rd overachiever is Kidderminster Harriers, the team that I support. I've done a review of their season so far. If you'd like to see that video, then the video will be linked in the description. But they are an overachiever because they are newly relegated from the National League, but we were awful last year, absolutely horrendous. We've stayed full-time for this season, which has been a real advantage, but our budget is a lot smaller than a lot of the teams in this league. Apparently, a Bradford Park Avenue, who are in 20th, actually have a bigger budget than us, which says something about how well we're doing, and that we're just bringing in the right players, and we've definitely overachieved. Our manager's in his first season as a manager, John Eustace, so he's really overachieved as well. He's done very, very well, and for me, Harriers are definite overachievers. Now looking at teams that have underachieved, and the big one that stands out is Altrincham. They got relegated from the National League last season. They actually finished above Kidderminster Harriers last season, and they are currently bottom of the league on just 8 points. They're on their third management team of the season, only got one league victory. It's just horrendous, and I think that they're definitely relegated. They are now 19 points from safety, with such a, they've got half the season left to make up that gap, and considering they've only got one win so far this season, I think they're as good as relegated already. Next up, another underachiever is Boston United. They got into the playoffs last year, but they lost Dale Southwell and Kane Felix, two big players to them, and they've really struggled to compensate for those losses. They've been in mid-table or just below mid-table all season, not pulling up any trees at all. Like they did really well last year, but they've struggled this year, down in 14th. And the third underachiever is Alfreton, because they're right down near the bottom of the league. They're in 18th, but they've got a really uncharacteristic trait that they've had this season, and that is that they've scored loads and loads of goals. They've scored 49 goals, yet they're only on 26 points. A bit of comparison, the team that is 1 point ahead of them, AFC Telford, have only scored 25 goals, so that is literally like half of the goals. And Alfreton, they're just not defending well enough. They've got the joint worst defensive record in the league, and considering the amount of goals that they're scoring, they're definitely underachieving in my opinion. Now on to the top goal scorers, something that I've just mentioned Alfreton are really, really good at. So the top scorer in the league is by far and away Danny Rowe of AFC Fylde, 33 goals so far this season. He's been absolutely insane. I've not seen a player as good as him. His shot power is just ridiculous. He should not be in the National League North. I'm hoping that some Football League team please come and buy him for in January, because it will make Harriers promotion challenge so much more fair in many ways, because he is far too good. He's on a lot of money though. Second is Newton of Tamworth on 14 goals. Third is Dan Bradley of AFC Fylde on 13 goals, although most of those goals were actually scored for Alfreton, who he played for at the start of the season. In joint fourth are two real giants, real target men. They've both got 12 goals. It's Mark Beck of Darlington and Tom Denton of FC Halifax Town, alongside Lee Hughes of Worcester and Danny Lloyd of Stockport, both on 12 goals as well. Then on 11 goals is Ironside of Nuneaton, Mike Phoenix of Salford, John Paul Pittman of Harrogate. Now looking at some other stats, and the biggest victory of this season so far was AFC Fylde, who beat Boston United 9-2 on the 19th of November. The highest attendance was on the 17th of December, a Manchester derby between Stockport County and Altrincham. Just under 4,000 people at that game, 3,991. The lowest attendance was also taking place in Manchester. It was just a few days ago on the 16th of January 2017 between Curzon Ashton and Worcester City, with less than 200 people at that game, 181. So now on to my predictions for what I think is going to be the outcome of the league table at the end of the season. And looking up to the top, I think that AFC Fylde will win the league. They've got a 6-point gap at the minute over Harriers, and I think it's their league to lose. If they keep hold of Danny Rowe, then I've really struggled to see anyone but Fylde winning the league. In second, I think it'll be Kidderminster Harriers. We've been solid this season, very consistent. Whenever we've lost, we've bounced back with a win. So I think that that's put us in good stead for the rest of the season. Salford are in great form at the minute. They beat us 3-0 last week. They can beat the big sides. They don't lose very often. They draw quite a lot of games, but they are hard to beat. So I think they'll finish fourth. I think they'll finish third. Chorley, I think they'll drop down to fourth. They've still got playoffs. They don't score a huge amount of goals, so that might damage them in the long term, but their defensive record is absolutely solid. And then FC Halifax Town in fifth. I think that they'll get into the playoffs. They'll just sneak in because they've been on good form recently. The signing of Adam Morgan, a real great goal scorer at this level, is a crucial one for them. Now looking down to the bottom of the league, and I think that Gainsborough will finish in 20th. It's going to be a tight relegation battle for that last relegation place. I think that Stalybridge and Altrincham are as good as relegated. There's a few candidates for that 20th spot, but I think that it will be Gainsborough that end up getting relegated. So there you have it. That is my review of the National League North. If you've enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell me in the comments down below what National League North team you support, and let me know what you think of the season so far. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, as that means a lot to me and really helps the channel out. So thanks for watching.